We appreciate you, Dom. Keep cooking.
Thank you. You're awesome. Have a good one.
All right.
All right, guys. So some great calls we had. We can just kind of roll into the next topic. We talked about Lakers versus Suns. We talked about Magic Johnson and his starting five all-time Laker greats. And, like I said, I give that one a B. It's not, I can't imagine putting in LeBron James over the logo. That's just crazy. But speaking of LeBron James, it does bring us to our next topic, Draymond Green. And Draymond Green had a lot to say about the confrontation that LeBron James had with Stephen A. Smith. He was very vocal about this. He said a lot. He said a lot, and there's a lot of for us to unpack in this situation. It keeps coming up. People continue to have reactions to it, and it's something that I think is going to be sort of like a backdrop to the beef that NBA players have with media and the divide that there is between the media and NBA players currently. So I'm going to go ahead and play that sound for you of Draymond Green's reaction to Stephen A. Smith, and then we're going to react together.
Listen, I think a lot of problems that guys have with media is to call something that man did bullshit and weak. Like, those are words like where we grew up.
Yeah.
Like, you get hands put on you where we grew up and those types of words. So I think the problem that people have with media is you go on there and you like, oh, that's weak. Like, weak? Like, calling another man weak? Like, that's not basketball, which is actually what Brian was saying in the first place. Like, let's keep it basketball, because calling a man weak, that's not basketball. And you're paid to talk about basketball. You call Brian weak for stepping to you, but you're taking shots at him as a father on TV behind a camera. Most would say that's weak. And I know he'll say, I'm paid to do that. No, you're paid to analyze. You're paid to debate on the show.
You really paid to say whatever you want to say as far as this game, whether you like it or not. But as a person, you should be lifting him up.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Because LeBron is a good dude. He do good shit. He a good dad. His kid made it. They doing some shit. That's his story. You feel what I'm saying? And so you should be lifting him up and talking about the fact that this dude ain't got into no trouble.
Absolutely.
Right? Ain't got into no bullshit. But like, you bring in, like I would say, the WWE into basketball when you cross that line and talk about somebody's kids. Because if it's my kids, bro, I'm gonna catch you too.
As soon as I said it, I hadn't talked to Brian at all about this. As soon as I saw him say it, Bob was up here that day. And Bob was like, oh, yeah, I work with Stephen A. tomorrow. I'm in got y'all game tonight. I'm in the studio tomorrow, something Stephen A. and I think Malika. And I was like, oh, you make sure you tell Stephen A. that I have zero respect for what he said yesterday. You go on TV, national TV, calling out this African-American, this black father who's raised another successful black young man. And you go on TV calling him out as a father because his son played in the NBA? That's ass backwards. You are on national TV condemning a black man as a father because his son is playing in the NBA. Like, how does that even make sense? And I told Bob that. I said, you should tell him. Like, tell him. Like, I can't respect that. Like, if you want to talk about him as a basketball player, talk about him as a basketball player. If you want to talk about Bronny as a basketball player, go ahead. He an NBA player. Talk about him all you want. Although I think it's pretty whack that y'all find time to talk about the 55th draft pick. The only picks I can name right off the top of my mind that was 55th pick or lower was Manu Ginobili and Isaiah Thomas. You can't even name a 55th draft pick.
But
But
they didn't
y'all,
get no,
they
they
decided
didn't get no steam until they start killing.
to see him just going at this man as a father. This man said, LeBron, you need to stop. As a father, you need to stop. What? Huh? And then you throw out the excuse like, well, he the one said that Bronny's better than NBA players. You name me what parent don't think their kid is better than everybody. Like, that is a common thing for parents that's in sports. We all think our kid is better than what they are. That is the nature of the beast. My mama thought I was better than what I was. That is the nature of a parent in sports. But to go on TV and say, you need to stop it as a father, then go and he stepped to you about that and then say it's weak on TV. Because the demeanor in person was like, that was demeanor in person. But then on TV, you go, oh, that was bullshit. It's like weak. Like, come on, man. So that's why he said Draymond ain't talking to me.
He was gonna fix his suit.
Yeah, like that's why he said Draymond ain't talking to me. And it's not that, I don't have much to say to that. Like, also reach out to that man and talk to him after somebody say something to you because you know you're wrong. So reach out to that man and talk to you, but he didn't. You didn't reach out and talk to him. That's weak. That's what we call weak. Where I'm from, the guys that I was raised by, the men that had an impact on my life, that's what we call weak.
Here's my issue with the Bronny situation. There are
Yikes. Yikes, yikes, yikes. You guys know I am about to unleash on Draymond Green. For me, right, when we take a look at what Draymond Green is saying, and he's just so hypocritical. I can't say it enough. He keeps saying where I'm from, this means that. Oh, please, Draymond Green, please. This is a guy who is this fake tough guy in the league, okay? Pretends to be tough and literally got slapped by Tristan Kardashian at an LA party. They were at a party and he got slapped by Tristan Kardashian. And, they made up. Where Draymond Green is from, there's no making up. If somebody puts their hands on you, it's on site all the time. There's no making up. How do you make up with a grown man that put his hands on you and slaps you and bitch slapped you in public? He talked about him as a father. That's not basketball. That's not basketball, that he talked about LeBron James's decision-making as it pertains to basketball. Bronny James is his son. We can't just hide from the fact that Bronny James is related to LeBron James. LeBron James is using his fatherhood to put him in the NBA. Why are we not allowed to talk about that? Why is that off limits? We're not allowed to talk about LeBron James as a father, but he's allowed to be a glorified babysitter in the NBA. So we opened up a daycare for Bronny James in the NBA and nobody's allowed to talk about it. That's my effing son. That's my effing son. So he's an NBA player now with an $8 million contract. And yes, you said that he was better than half these cats you're seeing on League Pass right now. We have to stop this. If you say it, then I can pick it up. You put out that tweet, I can pick that up. No, Bronny is not better than any NBA player. He's dead last. He's not better than guys in the G League. When you say things like that, you force people to have to respond and tell the truth. Tell the truth. Draymond Green is full of it. Was it about basketball when you punched your teammate in the face? Was that about basketball? Because I don't think that was about basketball. You punched a grown man, your teammate, in the face, but you couldn't beat up Tristan Thompson. Why can't you pick on somebody your own size? No, but you picked on Jordan Poole. And I want to go back to what Stephen A said. And I'm going to play this sound for you guys again. I might have played it before, but when he sat down with Gil's Arena, this is what Stephen A had to say about LeBron James. Yes, he said that it was weak. But he didn't freeze up when LeBron James pulled up on him courtside. He knew LeBron wasn't going to do anything. He was standing there bewildered, befuddled, and confused. He didn't understand why this man who's never pressed anybody in his life was coming up to him. This is what he had to say.
What do you make of LeBron confronting you?
I thought it was weak. I thought it was but in the moment, I knew that I was listening to a father. Here's what happened. I'm sitting courtside, and I stand up, and then I got my head turned. And then I turn back around, and I turn around, and he's right here in my face. He said, yo, you got to stop talking about my son. You got to stop with my son. That's my son. That's my son. And I was like, what? He's like, nah, fuck that. You got to stop my son. And I said, all right, though. And he walked off. So I remember during a timeout in the first quarter, seeing Bronny. Bronny looked over at me, and he had this sad look on his face. And I'm imagining Pop saw that shit, it hit him. And he couldn't hold it, and he rolled up on me.
I don't think that Stephen A was trying to be tough on Gil's Arena. He was just trying to keep it real, because he can be a different person in the YouTube streets than he can be on First Take and on ESPN. So Draymond Green is really corny for trying to like call Stephen out for, I don't know, trying to be a fake tough guy when that's him. He's a fake tough guy all the time. LeBron James was fake tough when he pulled up on Stephen A. Smith. And guys, I hate to bring this up, but this situation, it strangely reminds me of the Will Smith, Chris Rock Oscars slap. No, LeBron James did not actually slap Stephen A. Smith, but just the confrontation, the flexing on him, it felt very much so like that. Honestly, do you guys remember this? It happened maybe 2 years ago. The slap heard around the world. I don't know. Do you guys remember this slap when Will Smith slapped Chris Rock? Three years. It's 3 years old. Horizon vibes. So 3 years ago, Will Smith slaps the dog shit out of Chris Rock on stage, as you guys can see by the graphic. But yes, it was a slap heard all over the world. And I agree, Mark. LeBron knew the cameras were rolling when he approached Stephen A. And I think that he thought that he was going to get a little bit more credit for, flexing on Stephen A. Just like I think Will Smith thought that he was going to be considered a hero for slapping Chris Rock, but that wasn't the wide public opinion, right? That wasn't the popular opinion, is that Chris Rock deserved it. It was that Will Smith was so wrong for this, right? And people, they talked about this, and they talked about it for a long time. And believe it or not, Stephen A. Smith and Draymond Green had a lot to say about it. And it was funny because Stephen A. Smith was on opposite sides of this situation from Draymond Green. Draymond Green was actually blasted. And as much as I want Draymond Green to shut the hell up, I'm asking you guys, when will Draymond Green just shut the hell up? Right? I'm so tired of him. He's off-putting. I don't like majority of what he has to say. I don't understand why current NBA players need to have podcasts. I think that it's very, I just don't think it's conducive to team play. I don't think it's conducive to winning. to being focused, to working on your game, right? But Stephen A. Smith, he blasted Will Smith, and he didn't have anything good to say about Will Smith's behavior or of Jada Pinkett Smith. He can't stand them both essentially out of this situation. And here's what Stephen A. Smith had to say. And when you take a look at his comments here and you compare to him being confronted at this Laker game, it's just he's not keeping the same energy. And no, this was not an actual physical altercation. Okay, but it feels very much so eerily similar. So I'm going to play for you what Stephen A. Smith had to say about Will Smith smacking the absolute dog shit out of Chris Rock.
So again, he could have sued Will Smith. He could have had him arrested. He could have prevented Will from being able to go up on that stage and accept his Oscar. Accept his Oscar. I don't say this kind of stuff because I'm not an advocate for violence. Although I follow a Malcolm X creed more so than I follow the Dr. Martin Luther King creed, God rest both their wonderful souls. Although I'm prone to think eye for an eye and all of that other stuff, the society that we're living in today, the times that we're living in, I definitely think now more than ever before, we should be adamantly against violence. We truly should, because the world has lost its mind. But if there's ever an individual that deserved to have their ass kicked, it was Will Smith. And when I bring up what I would have done, and I said I would have done the same thing as Chris Rock, I'm saying that I would have done the same thing as Chris Rock while the cameras were rolling. The second we go to the commercial, it'd have been on. There'd have been cops. They'd have to separate. Somebody had to stop that. There's no way that Will Smith is leaving that building without a confrontation. Win, lose, or draw. There's no way he's leaving that building without a confrontation after doing something like that. And I think I speak on behalf of 99% of the men that I know, black, white, Hispanic, and otherwise.
Yikes. And literally, to me, this is just so far from his opinion on what he just said about LeBron. I saw a father. How come you didn't see a husband? These are not identical situations. Will Smith put his hands on Chris Rock. He put his hands on Chris Rock, and there is no excuse for violence. But how come he's not seen as a husband trying to defend his wife, the love of his life? Why didn't Stephen A. see a husband that saw his pain, his wife in pain, and he wanted to go to her defense? Just the same way a father was defending their child. Stephen A. Smith doesn't keep the same energy. That's why we call him Stephen A. Snitch. That's why we call him Stephen Ass Smith, right? And we all know that if he got bitch slapped by LeBron or by Will Smith, he wouldn't have done a damn thing. He might have sued. He might have pressed charges. Stephen Ass Snitch. Chris Rock didn't want to do that. Chris Rock didn't want Will Smith to go to jail. He just came out and made more jokes about it. He followed the code. Then you have Draymond Green, who came out and he said some things about it. Okay, he did. He talked about Will Smith and Jada Pinkett, and he was on Will Smith's side. He was one of the few people that was on the side of Will Smith. And guess what? This is consistent with him being on the side of LeBron James. He's family over everything. He believes that you defend your family at all costs. And it's something that, as much as I can't stand Draymond Green, I want to know when the hell is he going to shut the hell up? At least he's consistent. At least he's keeping the same energy as far as this situation is concerned. He's being consistent here. Do I believe him in his tough guy routine? Do I think that he's always just keeping it basketball. No, I think he's an antagonist. I think that he's disrespected players as a person himself in the media. He's been one of those people that he hates. But I want to play for you guys what he had to say about the Will Smith, Chris Rock slap, because he got blasted for his comments.
I think his emotions got the best of him. If you think that his emotions got the best of him, because the reality is, number one, there are so many people that does not have a wife, that doesn't have a fiance, that doesn't have a girlfriend, or that doesn't have a husband, that doesn't have a boyfriend, that doesn't have a fiance, saying, oh, that's ridiculous and you shouldn't have done that, but you also don't know how it feels to share in someone's pain. And so the reality is, was it a funny joke? With no context, okay, yeah, it's a funny joke, but guess who did have context? Jada had context. Guess who did have context? Will had context. Guess who did have context? All of those that knew and saw Jada's announcement a little while back that she had alopecia. I'm certain that she's had countless of nights and countless of times crying about that.
As you can hear, Draymond Green, he's sensitive, right? So he's sensitive about this slap. You heard him. Don't judge Will Smith. Let's not judge him. Man, that slap, every time I see a graphic of it, it's just, as awful as that night was, all of the pictures where, there's just stills of this slap. This is hilarious, guys. Hollywood, whatever you want to call it. I mean, the things that happen there, it just never cease to amaze me. Seriously. Never, ever, ever. But, I mean, what do you guys think? Does Draymond Green have a point? Do you think that it was weak of Stephen A. Smith to go to Gil's Arena and give an unfiltered opinion about this? Do you think that he should get hands put on him for talking about LeBron James as a father, even though I don't think that that's what he was doing? It just seems to me like Draymond Green is going to completely crash out over LeBron. He'll crash out for LeBron as if that's his wife and kid. And I never see LeBron James defending Draymond Green, ever. Draymond's a clutch client. He defends LeBron like he's his wife. Ready to crash out? Ready to pull up on anybody for LeBron James? But what do you guys think about this? Does Draymond Green have a point? Are his comments valid? Was Stephen A. weak for talking about LeBron James' decision-making as it pertains to Bronny being forced into the league as a father? Do you think that Stephen A. had the right to comment on LeBron James being an obsessed soccer mom and a glorified babysitter in the NBA? The daycare is open, guys. Nobody's allowed to comment on it. But what do you think? Call in. Talk to me nice. Of course, we want you to call in on this topic, T-Bert. Thanks for calling Sports T. Talk to me nice.
What's up, Dom?
Nothing much. Just, out here going live, cooking Draymond Green. I want to know when he's going to shut his fat mouth. Like, he's in a situation where he has the opportunity to contend with Steph Curry and Jimmy Butler, and he's worried about Stephen A. and LeBron. Can't he ever sit one thing out? Like, he can never sit something out. Just one time.
Let me I'm gonna start by saying this. First, let me do my normal. I want to shout out to the chat. The chat is on fire. Like, their comments are fire. The chat is so knowledgeable. And the chat is expressing the same sentiment that you're putting out there on the air. Shout out to all the love that is being given out in the chat, like especially some of the guys that don't have their rent yet. I know they're going to get them. One I want to highlight, the autism boy Cottage. Shout out to him. That's my guy. He's always in here, always chatting. He always supports you. Shout out to brother Juma and all the mods too. Now, let me start by saying this. Are you ready? Ken, now you have a professional kitchen and you're a great chef. Do I have your permission to cook?
You go right on ahead, T-Bird. Let's cook on this.
Let's get it. All right, we'll start with this. Now I'm gonna ask the chat, all the younger generation in here, the term weak, is that a fighting word? Is that, if you call somebody weak in real life, does that make y'all fight? Is that a crash out word? Because where I come from, weak is not a crash out word. When I was coming up, if you told another man to, suck something, that was. If you talked about someone's mom, that's automatic fight. You call somebody the B word, that's automatic fight. But calling somebody weak, that's an auto fight. I didn't know that. So y'all tell me in the chat if I'm wrong on that, right? But it's funny, we're talking about the word weak. We're in the weakest era of sensitivity and the weakest era of production on the court, right? They can't handle any criticism. They're weak, right? They can't run a sophisticated offense because mentally they're weak. They can't adjust to run a triangle because it's too complicated. They're just weak. They don't play any defense. Why? Because they don't care. Because they're weak. But Draymond is saying weak is a crash out term. I'm confused. Moving on. Baron Davis. I used to have so much respect for BD. He is just turning to, I think he's really auditioning for Clutch Boy. He actually was saying that, Stephen A was out of pocket because he was talking about Bronny. And if Stephen A talked about my son, it's up when I see him. His words was straighten his jacket out.
Yep.
Well, wait a minute. Correct me if I'm wrong. Stephen A didn't say nothing about Bronny. He's actually been capping for him. He said it himself on Gil's show. He hasn't commented on Bronny. He hasn't commented his thoughts on Bronny. Even when they did the first day when Bronny got in the league and he got into the game with his dad, he said, I stood up and clapped. I might not necessarily agree, but I stood up and clapped. So what is Barron talking about? He would beat Stephen A up if he talked about his son. Stephen A didn't talk about Bronny. He talked about LeBron, right? Because LeBron was putting a highlight on the target on Bronny's back saying, my son is better than half these dudes in the league. He was telling LeBron to please stop putting a target on your kid's back. It's going to make it harder on him. So, Barron, I think he's just auditioning for Clutch Sports. And here's something else. They brought up when you played this clip on the 55th pick. This is such cap. They're saying, why are we talking about the 55th pick? Let me break this down to y'all, chat. The 55th pick, all 60 picks, they're priceless. It is actually winning the lottery. It's 2 rounds in the NBA draft, if I'm correct. It's 60 picks. I don't care if you're first or 60th. You hit the jackpot. That 55th pick is absolute gold. There's only, let's say, 400 positions in the world to play in the NBA, and you just got one of them. So that 55th pick is so valuable, but they're underplaying it like, oh, it's only the 55th pick. Well, the problem is he shouldn't have been picked. He was not good. I just did the numbers once the other day. He was not good in high school, right? He was not good in college, right? But somehow he gets one of the most coveted spots in the NBA, which is any draft number. Ronnie happened to get the 55th pick. So there is a problem with that, but they're underselling it. And let's get back to Draymond Green. I have absolutely zero respect for him. I didn't like him before. I really can't stand him now because you're actually coming at Stephen A. Smith, and I don't agree with Stephen A. at all, almost nothing. You're coming at him, and he did nothing wrong. Draymond, your takes are, he's delusional. He's absolute delusional on his entire take from the word weak and him coming, Stephen A. actually came at another black man. You coming at a black man for getting his black kid into the league. No, you idiot. That's not why anybody is coming at LeBron. It's not because he got a black kid into the league. It's because you lied to the world, said your son was something. You sold us a bill of goods, and the bill of goods that you sold were stale. Your product was still stale. If you go to the market and they're advertising they have the freshest bread in the world and you go buy it and it's stale, don't you have a right to complain? Don't you have the right to, you want a refund? Well, guess what? That 55th pick, we all want our money back. We all want our money back on that 55th pick because that product that he sold to us on that tweet is not NBA worthy. It's not G League worthy. If the G League had a G League, Bronny couldn't play in it. How about that? Right? So we're coming at you as fans, right, that Bronny shouldn't be in the league. We're not coming at LeBron because, it's a black thing, a black on black thing. No, it's a basketball thing. Your son isn't worthy to be in the NBA. Will he be ready at some point? Maybe, maybe not. But we're going to find out, obviously. But that's what LeBron is, man, the stats is coming at him about. You put a target on your kid's back. And I'm going to get ready to wrap it up. I know I'm a little long-winded, but you gave me permission to cook, so I'm going to keep cooking just a couple more seconds. We seen it happen to the Bulls when the dad was hyping up his son, right? Not LaMelo. What's the other son? The first one that came in, Don.
It was Lonzo.
Lonzo Ball. He hyped him up. He's this, he's that. And I was a fan of Lonzo in the league. I believe he went to UCLA. He was nice. But he put such a huge target on his son's back. His son had one of the worst rookie seasons ever. I'll never forget his first game. The score is 0-0. They picked him up full court. Who does that? Because he put a bullseye on his son's back. That's exactly what LeBron did. And that's what none of us want to see, a bullseye on somebody, right? So I think, in conclusion, Draymond's delusional. Baron Davis, I lost all respect for you. You're auditioning for Clutch. And we need to put some respect on every number in the draft, whether it's 55, 60, or 23. That is hitting the damn lottery, period. Pass the mic to you, Dom.
T-Bird, I'm with you. So 2 things that you said that I think are really good before I let you go. Really and truly, the 55th pick, we have to stop discounting that. I think it's absolutely disgusting of Draymond Green and anyone else to roll with that narrative. I've never heard anyone talk about a 55th pick outside of Manu Ginobili and Isaiah Thomas. It's just disgusting because you are lucky to be in the NBA at any number, at any pick, just to hear your name called and just to be in the NBA in one of the 425 spots. Draymond Green has no respect for this league, and neither does LeBron James and anybody else that thinks it's okay for Bronny James to be stealing a spot from another qualified person. Any qualified person, and the league is predominantly black. So that means that likely Bronny James stole this spot, the 55th pick, from a more not just qualified person, but someone who actually needed the job a lot more. Somebody that was trying to maybe get themselves out of the hood, get a better opportunity for themselves. So yes, I think it's ass backwards for Draymond Green to sit there and cry that it's backwards for people to be saying that, or for Stephen A. Smith to say that it was wrong for Bronny to be in the NBA, to criticize him for getting his son a job in the NBA. Yes, it's not just any person. Bronny is awful. He's a complete disaster, and he took a job from a qualified NBA player. Literally, the NBA opened up a daycare for Bronny James. That's what happened. They're running a daycare. Okay. LeBron James is a glorified babysitter, an obsessed soccer mom. That's what's happening. So for Draymond Green to make it seem like it's anything but that, I have an issue with it, and most people do. So
For sure.
Thank you so much, T-Bird.
Hold on, Dom. One last thing.
Yeah.
I want to ask you a question.
Yeah.
Because you're the generation under me. Is that word weak? Is that a fighting word? If somebody come up on you and say, "Hey, Dom, you're weak," is that like we're fighting over that?
So I think that anything can be fighting words. If you don't like a person, if you don't like them and they said something to you, anything that they say about you, anything that they do, you might want to fight. So I don't think that this started from LeBron James calling LeBron out as a father. I think that it started from well before that. I think it started when he asserted that LeBron James would never be considered the GOAT. It doesn't matter what he were to do. I think that it got worse this season in particular when he stated that LeBron James, was basically ducking the smoke, that he called him out very harshly for taking his break from social media, for calling the media negative. So there's been this war between NBA players and the media, and Stephen A specifically has been in the spotlight for this, and it's been heating up all season long, whether it's Kevin Durant tweeting something. There's been a big problem with Stephen A. Smith and the superstars in the league for a couple seasons now. So this is nothing new. This even goes all the way back to him and Allen Iverson. So, I just think that Draymond Green is delusional. I think that his opinion that a 55th pick is no big deal is ridiculous. As an NBA player, he should be ashamed and embarrassed of himself to say that, especially given his career and the fact that he has been able to ride the coattails of Steph Curry his entire career and have 4 titles as a result. He's not a game changer on any team, in my opinion. He wouldn't have these titles without Steph Curry and being on this team. So
Thanks,
I just think Draymond Green is a disgrace. And I really do appreciate you.
Thanks for letting me call. I appreciate
Absolutely.
you, giving me the floor. And I won't call on the next one. I'll give somebody else a chance to cook. Shout out to the chat. Shout out to you, Dom, the best sports talk show host ever. Shout out to Sports T. All right,
so
talk
much.
to y'all.
Have a good one, T-Bird. Thanks for calling.
All right,
in.
bye.
Bye-bye. All right, guys. So we are going to move to the next topic. We're going to get into NBA contenders. Okay. And I think that there is a major discussion to be had surrounding NBA contenders. We talk about the Lakers often. We talk about the bad teams. We beat up the NBA so much, and we're not talking about the potential storylines that could, really, really drive the NBA and just viewership, right? And even just excitement. So there's great teams playing right now. Cavaliers are playing amazing basketball, winning 16 games straight.